Hey, welcome to the Razzle Dazzle Show, a podcast where we talk about our favorite video games and all things pop culture with an emphasis on our favorites. I'm your host, Jared, and our guest today is Natalie Van Sistine. Natalie is a voice actress, audio engineer, and writer who currently lives near Dallas with her dog, Nico. You can hear her as Yor Forger in Spy Family, Star and Stripe in My Hero Academia, the Fox Devil in Chainsaw Man, Lilith in The Maid I Hired Recently is Mysterious, Arnhide in Vinland Saga, Natsuko Aki and Re Cutie Honey, and dozens of other anime including Attack on Titan, Kaguya-sama Love is War, Full Dive, Pop Team Epic, Overlord, and One Piece. She has also appeared in over 100 games, including Honkai Star Rail as Serval and World of Warcraft as Dark Ranger Velonara. You can also hear her in Hearthstone, Mobile Legends Bang Bang, Tectonica, Goddess of Victory Nike, and Cookie Run Witch's Castle. Please let us know what you think about this episode somewhere on the internet. Be sure to follow us on our socials and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Links to them are down below. And with all that being said,
it's Razzle Dazzle time.
Hello, Natalie. Thank you so much for coming on the show. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. I have been looking forward to this for a long time, and finally I get to have you on the show, get to talk to you. A quick Kickstarter question before we start. Have you dressed Nico up like Bond yet? Are you planning to?
No, I can't say. For anyone who doesn't know, Nico is my 8-pound Chihuahua. I haven't dressed him up as Bond. I think one time we did like a little Ewok costume for him. He looked really, really cute then. But he hates clothes. He's got a double coat, so he gets really offended when we put things on him. He's got a really dapper-looking sweater though that every once in a while I can get away with.
Understood. Okay. Well, let's start at the beginning. Can you tell us where did you grow up and how would you describe the musical background of your childhood?
I grew up, I was born in northern Illinois and moved to southern Wisconsin pretty soon after. So I grew up southeast Wisconsin girl. And music, I grew up in the church quite a bit. So music kind of was, a very easy to access hobby. And there was always different people who were teaching lessons and everything. So I started taking piano lessons from someone else who went to the church when I was in like second grade or something like that. And I enjoyed it. And I got further and further into it the older I got. My parents don't watch or consume a lot of like popular media or music or anything. So my dad's one thing he loves is new age piano. So I grew up listening to tons of new age piano in the house, George Winston and David Lanz. And my first concert I ever went to was new age piano. And just because that was just kind of my soundscape, I really got into piano. I really liked that type of music, and I eventually got into like movie soundtracks and stuff, but that was kind of my exposure. And part of the reason I wanted to start playing more instruments is I wanted to start playing the things I heard, and I branched out into other instruments. I played cello in the community orchestra for a couple of years, and then I just started kind of making it my personality to like see how many instruments I could play. Yeah. So I just kept going from there.
That's awesome. Do you remember the first kind of band that really got your attention when you were young?
First band, I mean...
Or musician, band or musician.
Musician. I mean, it just was more what I was exposed to first. Yeah. I have since kind of, it's definitely not what I listen to now, but I remember the first time I heard like Avril Lavigne and Evanescence and everything like that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is so incredible. Really jammed out to them in high school quite a bit. But I still do love some symphonic rock. It's a little. I definitely kind of drifted over to like Mumford and Sons and Hosier and I love the Civil Wars and kind of more of a like folksy type now is a little more my jam. But the man, I had that little emo kid revelation moment, that I think all of us go through at some point.
Yeah, I understand. That's so cool. Do you remember the first physical music you've owned that was yours? CD, vinyl?
Ooh, oh my goodness, that I owned. Man, the one that comes to mind that I remember being like a big deal. Okay, there was two of them. The Titanic soundtrack, shocking no one.
You've never seen the movie at that point, right?
The movie came out when I was in like first or second grade.
Yeah.
I fell hard and fast for My Heart Will Go On, Celine Dion. I thought she's just the best singer in the whole world. That was like my one thing that, the one bit of pop culture even my relatively chill and off-grid parents couldn't quite escape from. So, and that was like the first piece of piano sheet music I got. That wasn't like a easy learning book or something like that. But I was obsessed with the Titanic soundtrack. And then I remember I got a Christmas CD randomly too, and it had orchestral Christmas music on it. And it wasn't anything fancy. It was like, it was branded Coca-Cola, but I remember it had some really like, it was like by the Coca-Cola company, like the soda people, but it had some cool instrumentals that I just remember listening to so much, even when it wasn't Christmas. So yeah, just weird stuff that whatever I got my hands on, man, it was just
yeah, that's interesting. Little fun fact, my cat, his name is Coke. We didn't name him Coke. His litter is all named after different sodas.
That.
So there was a Pepsi, there was a Mountain Dew, there was a Fanta, and we got the Coke.
Oh my goodness, Fanta's a great name for a cat.
Right? And we have him like decked out in like a lot of Coke themed outfits, and his collar even has it's a Coca-Cola themed collar, and he has like a little Coke bottle thing, like instead of a bell, it's like that. Yeah, it's cute.
That's adorable.
Yeah.
I love that.
So already you've answered a good amount of the beginning questions I usually ask, like, did you grow up with any instruments and what kind of music was being played? So this next question requires a bit of context, so here we go.
Okay.
I work as a producer and audio engineer at WGCU, NPR PBS public media radio station in Southwest Florida. And we have this other show called 3 Song Stories, where the guest comes in, they pick 3 songs that every time they listen to these songs, immediately takes them back to a moment in time that they have a significant story associated with. It could be funny, it could be silly, serious, dramatic, whatever. Doesn't matter. I want to ask you, off the top of your head, do you have a song story?
Oh, I'm trying to I have usually a big reason I listen to most music is because I have like there's something I've associated with it. So I'm trying to think like which one is is like a significant one that fits. Oh, that's a good question. I wish I kind of had like more time to ruminate on it. See, I'm like a chronic overthinker, so like I want to like pick the most perfect one. And,
right.
This is why I'm bad at improv because I try to learn how to do the yes and thought process.
And with this type of question, it's easy to be like, oh well, there's this song, but then there's this song, and then this one. It's like you can. Some people think of like a lot very quickly, but it's whittling it down. That's the hard part.
Yeah, and I know like a lot of people have like the really fun ones, or again, like it's so weird having a lot of my earlier experiences too, where it was, like I can be like, well, yes, this one piece by this, again, new age composer, like I had, like there was this, so my favorite musician that my dad listened to, David Lanz, he had this really cool suite of music, and he had a piano version of it, but then he had a version that was orchestrated, and it was very fantasy-esque, and there was the very, very end of it, there was 3 pieces that were kind of like a movement. It was called Skyline Fire Dance. And so you had like kind of like the happy bright day, and then the second piece was called like the setting of 2 suns, and then the third piece was the fire dance, and it was very like big and epic. And I remember listening to those over and over and over again as a kid. And when I was first thinking about being a creative and what I wanted that to look like for myself, like in middle school, and just toying with the idea of like, oh, what if I wrote a book? What if I could write stuff and make things and create original things? And that music, and especially that particular CD and those set of pieces, I remember were just the backdrop for very proto-creative Natalie in a big way. And I was homeschooled for a number of years, and the amount of time I spent not doing my schoolwork and just listening to that over and over and over again was not insignificant.
Right. And how does that, those pieces, I guess, fit into your life today?
I don't have the CD anymore. I think that's still in my dad's office somewhere. And boy, we really don't have a great method of like getting physical media onto like our devices. I'm so limited by like what I download on my iPhone anymore. So I need to go make a copy of that and get that like officially on my phone so I can revisit it from now on. I do have the piano book though. So every once in a while, it's kind of fun to pull that out and, you know, kind of remember. I used to be able to play them pretty well. I'm not quite as proficient as I used to be. Not like the muscle, it's interesting because the like muscle memory is still there, but not quite the stamina. And if you're not like playing music daily and really into it too, like it just comes back to you like half a second slower, it feels like. And so it's all still there, but it just kind of, the processing time is just a little slower. So I'm slowly kind of getting back into it because I missed music and I hadn't been able to do a whole lot with it for a while. So I'm getting back. But I still do like pull the books out and kind of putz with it once in a while, and that's fun.
Yeah, that's great. And I completely understand that bit about picking up an instrument. You haven't played it in so long. I'm also a musician, I guess. I play the alto sax. I play the ocarina, learning the bass. And I started with the saxophone when I was like, I don't know, late middle school, early high school or something. And for the longest time, like I stopped and I picked it back up like, I don't know, 2 years ago. And man, like my fingers know what notes to hit or what to play, right? Like the actual physical movements of it, I still remember, but it's that lung capacity trying to get that back up. The lips, you know, because it's a reed instrument, a woodwind instrument, you know, like it's rough and you got to like push through it for like a while to like get back to where you were. It's crazy. Now let's get into your career a little bit. On top of being a voice actor, you are also a writer and an audio engineer. So let's break that down a little bit. How did you get into audio engineering? What sparked that inspiration?
So in case it's not obvious, I got really into music for I was really into music for a long time, and I really wanted to be involved in music for my career. I was planning on going into pedagogy. I was especially interested in classical piano. That was always my jam. That was always where I felt the most comfortable. It is a very difficult and competitive field, though, and I was starting to realize that as much as I loved music, it requires just insane amounts of time and dedication. And I think some people are just born with the ability to hyperfixate and hyperfocus in on classical piano in just that very perfect way. And I was realizing that as much as I loved music and I loved playing it, that I didn't quite have that like I wanted to be able to get it right once, or like wanted to get it right, but then I didn't want to have to like just stay in there and like hyper focus. And I could tell that not all of my creative needs were being met. So I could kind of see that it wasn't quite exactly, but I was stubborn enough that I wanted to try to make it work. But as I was getting through high school more, I was starting to have problems with pain in my arms especially. And we thought it was just like carpal tunnel, but all my teachers were, you know, baffled. They were like, you're doing everything right. You're ergonomically playing your instruments correctly. There's no reason you should be experiencing pain. But it was so bad and so severe that I was just not able to continue practicing and playing my instruments for as long as would be necessary for me to be a professional musician. And I kind of I just realized that I was like, okay, so this whole trajectory I saw for myself in this life I thought I had, I'm going to have to completely rethink this. I don't know what to do. And so I kind of went to the drawing board, and I knew that on top of music, I also really I've always been kind of secretly like a 60-year-old lady. My grandma and all my aunts are very crafty. My grandma had a craft store, and one of my aunts was like a needlepoint canvas designer and painter, and my other aunt was an art major and went into like library science, and another one did like costuming for the local ballet theater. And so I've always really enjoyed crafting and sewing, and they've always been very nurturing of me. And so I was like, okay, I also like this. And one of my favorite things about that is I grew up listening to audiobooks like nonstop. And I loved audiobooks, especially because then I could craft and kind of read at the same time. It was like the perfect combo.
Multitasking.
So it's like, yeah. So I originally sat down and I was like, what job would let me do kind of the same thing? And I was expressing that to my dad one day, and he goes, he's an electric engineer, and he goes, I have a technician who designs and builds circuit boards and sometimes has to sit and solder the boards together and test them and all kinds of stuff. He's like, do you want to go shadow her and see what you think of that? Because the kind of work she does, I think, is pretty close to what you're looking at. And I was like, sounds like a lot of math, but okay, I'll try it out. And I shadowed her one day, and I was like, you know what, I do like this. And it doesn't seem like you have to use a lot of, like, if you can get through college, like, your day-to-day isn't like too crazy math-wise. So I totally pivoted. My family relocated from southern Wisconsin to the middle of nowhere, South Carolina, right after I graduated from high school. So I just went straight to college and at the local community college, and I got my degree in electronic engineering. And while I was there, I was newly in this new community. I didn't have access to, even though I wasn't able to professionally play music, I still was like a member of all these ensembles and the community orchestra back in Wisconsin. And all of a sudden, all of that was stripped away from me. And I got really, really into writing for a while. And I wrote a couple of manuscripts that are still sitting in a drawer that I'm hopefully going to be able to do some stuff with eventually. But I was like, I miss performing. I miss doing creative stuff. And I was thinking about, like, should I compose music maybe? Like, digital instruments were starting to become a thing. I'm sorry, I promise I'm getting somewhere with this.
No, please. This is all interesting.
But I thought composing might be an option, and YouTube was really starting to pop off then. This was like year 2 of YouTube when, it was the Wild West back then. No one knew what we were doing. But people were starting to put out like independent animation. And I was like slowly being like, oh, what if I wrote for like these people who are just making animation? I've been putting my work on like different, writing websites, and we all share our stuff. And there's no reason why musicians can't do this, and animators and stuff. And I was slowly putting these pieces together. So I went looking for animators who needed composers and didn't have a lot of luck, but I started finding people who needed voice actors. So the way I fell into audio engineering as a result was I was already figuring out and experimenting with recording my music very badly. I didn't know what I was doing. I was totally self-taught. And it showed. It wasn't great. But I was aware of like what Audacity was, and I had a terrible old dynamic microphone that I was figuring out how to hook up and how to just layer different things together, basic multi-track recording.
Right.
So when the voiceover stuff came along, I had done some theater and I thought it was fun, but I always thought I was the mid-sized mature voiced one, so I was always getting cast as moms, and theater was just never very rewarding for me because I was not very physically coordinated as well too. So even though I had aspirations of being an actor, I never thought, I was like, well, theater's the only thing I'm ever going to be able to do because I'm not moving to Hollywood. Obviously I don't look like an actor, and I don't think that's ever going to pan out for me. So to me, this felt like a totally like no stakes community theater but online opportunity, and I started just auditioning for stuff, and I thought it was really fun. And in the process of auditioning for things, I wanted to start making my own stuff, and then that involved audio engineering and putting things together. And I just thought that was really, really fun. And I took some of the stuff I wrote, and I found other baby voice actors who were just getting started. And at the time, we were all on forums, and then we'd get in Skype groups together. And, back in 2009, 2010.
Right.
And then I'd be like, hey, I wrote this script. Can you play this character? And then I'm going to edit all our stuff together, and I'm going to find sound effects online, and I'm going to make an audio drama kind of a thing. And this goes back to all the audiobooks I grew up listening to. I wanted to do stuff like that. And in the process of putting stuff together, I went, hey, this audio engineering thing is kind of like really fun and feels like a practical, like real person job that still uses like my creative stuff and can still tap into some of the music knowledge I have, but also the acting knowledge. And now this also this electronic engineering degree that I have, I was like, what if it all came together in one place? And that was audio engineering. So by the time I had this 2-year degree, I kind of went back to my dad and I went, okay, cool. So we've got the safety job on lock, which is electronic engineering. But what if I went to art college, hear me out, and got an audio engineering degree? And that was how that happened.
Wow. What a story, man. It's just all these things leading up and building up to this one milestone in your life. That's incredible. Like I mentioned, I'm also an audio engineer here at WGCU, and my story, I didn't want or didn't know I wanted to do this as my job, be a producer and work in audio engineering. At first, like whenever I was looking at colleges and stuff, my mom would ask me like, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And I was like, I don't know. I want to do what Kid and Krista used to do for Nintendo, and like they're like hosts of like this show on Nintendo's YouTube channel or whatever, and I want to do that or something. So she's like, okay, great. I eventually started like a degree in communications, but then I transferred over to FGCU. That kind of changed into journalism, and then I got into like the media program that's on campus. Because they allowed the opportunity for people to like make their own shows, make their own podcasts and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. Started this show. 4 years later, we became independent, and now going on for 5 years now. And all that time, I somehow got an internship at this station, and it was only supposed to be for the summer. They never kicked me out. I never left, and I just like somehow stumbled upon this place and fell in love with not necessarily public radio, but like the things that go behind the scenes, making public radio, making radio, and I'm just here and I'm loving my job. So like I can kind of relate on that level. And I think that's phenomenal. So you already hinted, and I wanted to ask about it already. Making your own audio book, audio drama, the Elysium Project. That's something that you are the director, producer, sound designer, and writer for this audio drama. Can you tell us the inspirations for this in terms of story, in terms of what you wanted or how you thought about making something like this?
Yeah, I really liked crafting, and so I grew up listening to a lot of different audiobooks, and one of my favorite series was called the Redwall series, and I really liked it because it was one of the few things our library had that had a full cast in it. Normally with audiobooks, you just have your traditional narrator, they're doing all the voices, but the cool thing about the Redwall books that really got me in was that the writer was also a radio guy. And he started writing this children's book series, and because he was a radio personality, he knew all these people who were actors or who were on mic talent. And so he'd be like, hey, who wants to go record my latest book with me? So a number of his different books had full cast where it didn't have sound effects or music, but it had all the different actors playing the different roles. And so I had an ear early on for that. And anything our library had that was full cast, I was devouring. I just listened to the BBC Lord of the Rings just over and over and over and again. And I loved it, and I thought it was so great. And so I would just find anything that was full cast. And I remember when podcasting first started coming out, part of the reason I think I fell into the rabbit hole for voiceover and stayed there was it was the early days of podcasting audio drama. And I immediately was able to be like, okay, I know what this stuff sounds like. I grew up listening to this, and people are just making this. And, it wasn't, we didn't know what we were doing. Everyone was recording on potatoes back then, and all the sound effects were like the grainiest quality you could possibly find. It didn't sound great, but we were all making stuff, and it was really this cool, exciting Wild West sort of place. And so I was immediately like, I started auditioning for audio drama, and that's what I wanted to do. And that was the whole reason I did voiceover, especially like that was the first projects I started working on were audio drama. And that's always been my passion. And so I immediately wanted to also throw myself into the fray. So I turned around and I was like, okay, cool. I've written, I think I had like 3 different manuscripts at that time. And I knew that I had, out of the 3 of the ones that I had like completed, they were all first drafts, all very rough. I had written them as teenagers, so they were, about as good a quality as you can imagine. But but the newest one I had just finished. This was right around the time like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man series was coming out and The Dark Knight. And so it was very early on in the whole like new superhero kind of revolution. And I was also starting to read more like YA and adult books and expanding my reach. And one of the ways I was kind of processing through those things was writing my own stuff. And so I really liked like X-Men especially. So I came up with this concept where, I had these teenagers who were part of like a secret government experiment, and it's changed since then, but they were injected with this formula to essentially become like super soldiers, and they could use telekinesis. But the twist was that like it was totally based on their emotions, and if they didn't have emotional control, like it made they were constantly fighting their own darker selves and their own struggles, and because if they just thought or had an emotional reaction to something, their powers would kick off, and so the whole thing was them kind of constantly fighting that. And so that was where that started. And so it just was the easiest and most accessible thing I had to start adapting to audio drama, even though superhero stuff is like the hardest format to because you have all these like powers and fight scenes and stuff. It's not a like it's not like a talky conversation type stuff. So I remember like, back in the day, I was just like, audio drama, you just take a book and you just take all the dialogue out and then you put sound effects, like as if that's how adaptation works. And we learned. But I still remember like trying to sound design a car chase in Audacity. And that was like the dumbest thing I could have ever done. But I figured, I learned a lot. And then I eventually, I went back and rewrote this. Like you can't hopefully find this anymore, the original version. So the version that's like actually on podcasting is like the rebooted version I did while I was in college. And even then it's still really needs an overhaul. I'm going to get it done at some point. It's been, I really should have finished all of my scripts and just everything, but I was like, no, I'll figure it out. And, sometimes the Tom and Jerry laying the railroad track down as you go, sometimes that works. And I have realized I'm not that kind of creator and I need to stop doing that. So for anyone who's like, why has it been on hiatus? It's because I'm probably going to reboot it. I do have 2 more episodes left recorded that are going to finish the season that has been released. And I just bought a piece so I can finally adapt my old computer that Pro Tools no longer works. Well, Pro Tools works on it. None of the plugins work anymore because I had such an old rig, which was phenomenal. I got it off of a Grammy-winning music mixer from Nashville. So I bought it off of him, and it worked great. But now it is literally so old I physically can't upgrade it anymore, and now none of my plugins work on there. Wow. So I have had to completely. I basically have a task of completely migrating all my projects and all of my sound effects and everything. And Spy Family happening meant that I have not had the time to do that. So it's not just as simple of like, oh, I just need to sit down and open a Word document. I have to do a whole data migration. I have to rebuild my workstation from the ground up. And I need mental bandwidth to do that I'm hoping I will have maybe this fall.
Oh my God, that's insane! Incredible about the process of the Elysium project, but man, that's crazy that you got to go through all that stuff with the plugins, and oh man, I can't even imagine like really like that, and I know that's gonna take like forever too.
Yeah, I need to just block off a week and just be like, this is my personal hell, and we're just gonna march through it together.
Understood. Thank you for the segue. Spy Family, right?
Yes.
And I'm sure, your time as an audio engineer and a writer helped you develop different perspectives on how to do things within the booth for voice acting. From the research I did on you, your first real anime role was Rosa in Rio Rainbow Gates through Amberly Connor's company Sound Cadence. Shout outs to her. She's amazing.
Oh, yes.
And, I would like to say arguably that starting there eventually got you to where you are now as the voice of Yor in Spy Family. Arguably, I mean, as in like probably your most popular role at least at this moment.
Yeah.
Can you share the story on how you landed the role, just to have it on the show?
Yeah. So, funny story. This is actually, it's a great thing you mentioned the whole Elysium project thing, because when I was working on that project, that was back in like 2009, 2010 or so. And I had just gotten started doing voiceover. I was a couple months in. I'd met a couple other, again, like proto baby voice actors. And I was like, cool, I've done this for 3 months. I know what I'm doing. Time to start my audio drama. And then I was like taking all my friends who I had started doing some projects with and going like, oh, you're so good at doing this voice type. I want you to play this character and I want you to play this character. But I hadn't run into someone that was like my main character. Her name is Emma. And I hadn't run into anyone like a lot of the female actresses I knew at the time. I was like, okay, you would be great as this character and you'd be great as this character, but none of them was like Emma. It totally fit what I was quite going for her, because she needed to be, vulnerable, but also, she was a strong character, but very, very vulnerable, was going through lots of things, kind of like a proto Buffy kind of character, where she was eventually going to have to be like really badass, but I wanted to have that vulnerability, and I really like that aspect, and I was trying to find someone who fit that niche. So I cast my male lead, a character named Ian. I cast Justin Briner, fresh out of high school. Justin's the main character in My Hero Academia.
Oh, wow.
He plays Deku. Yeah, we had worked on some stuff together, and I was like, Justin, I want you to be in my show. But also, I was like, hey, do you have any suggestions? Because I knew he had done some projects of his own, and I was like, hey, Justin, I'm trying to find the right person for this main character. I was like, do you have any recommendations? Like, I don't think I've run into someone yet who totally fits the bill. And he goes, oh, I've got someone you should totally ask. Her name's Amber. And I messaged Amber. I was like, hey, I'm doing this audio drama project. Justin said you were really cool. Can you send a sample in? And I heard it and I went, oh, yeah, that's going to be great for Emma. So she was Emma from day one. And then I made like a little Skype group for the cast members so we could kind of like touch base. And then we then kind of just started hanging out and sending like memes and chatting more regularly. And we ended up becoming really, really good friends. And so I've known Amber for close to 15 years at this point.
Wow.
And it's been amazing too, because she's just been also an incredible creator, and she's done so many amazing projects. So when she started Sound Cadence, she went to a couple of us where we had been collaborating for years, and she's like, hey, I don't have like consistent work. I can't like hire you as an employee, but like as a contractor, if I have like work come in for audio engineering or directing and stuff, I want to be able to like have like a stable of people I can go to, and do you want to be on that list? And so we started collaborating on stuff together, and I would do audio engineering for her. I'd help out with directing, whatever she needed. I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Let's whatever we're working on, let's go for it. And eventually she founded Sound Cadence, and eventually she started doing a lot more video game work. And finally Rio came down the line, and she was like, Natalie, she's like, I want to have you audition for it, but she's like, I really think you would be really great as this one character. I love her. She's like one of my favorite characters in the whole show. She gets possessed by this ghost that's obsessed with chicken wings. It's great. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. That sounds fabulous. And so I sent in an audition, and she cast me. I had no anime experience. I'd never dubbed in my life before. I had done one workshop, the Adventures in Voice Acting, which is Bang Zoom's like kind of flagship educational program for dubbing education. They had done one workshop in Chicago while I was going to school there. And so I took their dubbing workshop, and that was my only dubbing experience, was like doing one scene with a couple of cues. So I was going in fresh. I had never matched lip flaps. I didn't know what I was doing, but Amber was so gracious enough that even though I didn't live in Texas at the time, so I flew out. I literally stayed at her house, and then we just went to the studio each day. And then it wasn't simul dubbing, so we just batch recorded all the episodes, and it was a lot of fun.
That sounds awesome, man. And what a great way to start. And I really think it's super cool. And I didn't know this beforehand. When I found out that, you had such a close relationship to Amber, it kind of made me realize, like, oh my God, like there's a certain group of anime that has something special to them that's important to me. So to further transition to the Spy Family convo, Spy Family, along with Komi Can't Communicate, Amber, and Tomo-chan is a girl, Lexi Nieto, who was a past guest on the show. She's amazing. Watching these shows like all around the same time, like a year or two ago, really got me back into watching anime, like for fun, other than Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo, Pokemon, right? Like that's like to the side, and that's just like, yes, I like these anime, but like something that is current and is ongoing and stuff. And I don't know, there's something special about these shows that just drew me back into the world of anime, I guess. Very slice of lifey, but Spy Family has something extra special in it because it's not just about the family portion, it's about the espionage stuff and all this other cool aspects of it. And it's the first anime that I'm actually following along with the manga, clearly, as I have them all behind me. I'm still a little bit behind, but I still, whatever. I fell in love with Spy Family so much that it has made me, more of a fan to like outwardly approach these other different mediums. I don't normally read manga, and therefore, thanks to this show, that's what I'm doing. I saw the premiere of Code White, and you guys did amazing. It's such a fun movie. I don't know. It's just there's a lot of things that is in Spy Family that's hard to like really. It's hard to put into words, but there's something super special, and it's one of my favorite shows of all time. And you do such an amazing job as Yor, especially balancing the two different personas, I guess. There's Yor, and then there's Thorn Princess. I wanted to ask you, how do you find the balance in those two dynamics? The lighthearted family with the intense action assassin parts.
Yeah, it honestly went back to the audition when there was only 3 characters that went out, obviously the main 3 family members. And, I took a look. Obviously, I wasn't going to read for Twilight. And I'm not known for playing children. I'm working on trying to broaden my range. And I will usually try to go for things, but I kind of figured with this one, I should just focus on Yor, and that seemed like my wheelhouse. If I was going to book anything for the show, that was where I should put all my energy. And I remember getting into the booth, and I had a couple friends talk about the series. It was just the manga at the time around me. And usually everyone was like pitching it like, oh, think about it like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but they have a telepathic daughter. And, it's like, it's anime. And so I went in thinking, okay, Yor's going to be the Angelina Jolie type. So, and she's an assassin. So, okay, very confident, very put together, sexy kind of a thing. And so I went in reading that, and then there was a small description of her, and it was mostly just saying like, she works at City Hall, but she's secretly an assassin. And so I started reading the lines thinking like, how would, like an Angelina Jolie type, how would this come across? So I was going with the confident and the sexy. And one of the lines was her, may I have the honor of taking your life this evening? And that was very much in line of what I thought I would be doing. But then there were some other lines where there was the line where she's like, oh, I'm so excited to hold Anya's hand, but I should be careful because I remember the time I hugged my brother and I broke his ribs. And I was like, wait, okay, this is sounding a little less like Angelina Jolie. And I wasn't totally sure. And she was like, and she also like was starting to talk about like, yeah, I can't let my brother know that I have this secret life. And I was like, I'm missing something here. And I could tell I was like not totally understanding the character. And I got really, really lucky that because so many of our friends had told us about the series, at some point we had, as a household, accumulated volume 1 of Spy Family. Had we read it? Not yet. Obviously meant to get to it. But there was a copy of volume 1 in the house. So I went, you know what? This is a big enough show that I should probably put the time in, because if I book this is going to change my whole life. Spoilers. And so I was like, you know what? As an actor, I should take the time to properly do my research and make sure I'm in, some days with certain things you just do not have the time, but I did have the time that day, and I'm so glad I did. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just take a minute, I'm gonna go make a cup of tea, and I'm just gonna go read volume 1 and make sure I'm really aware of what's going on, because I feel like there's context in here that is gonna help me understand it. And then I was reading it and I went, oh my God, she is a nervous wreck who can flip on an Angelina Jolie switch in very specific circumstances, but most of her is a big ball of anxiety. And immediately I was like, that's the thing I was missing. And that's what really I could connect with her. Cause I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like a weird homeschool kid, can relate to her lack of, she's like, is this what people do? Is this how people act? I don't know what people are like. I was like, same girl, same. So immediately when I got back into the booth, I was like, okay, let's start dialing up some anxiety into this. And then, and I really started to realize, I was like, oh, this is like kind of how I am as an actor, where I am a ball of anxiety as a human being during the day. And thank God for beta blockers. But, like I walk around as an anxious mess, but as soon as I get in front of the microphone, I have to pretend to be an assassin. I have to pretend to be a soldier. I have to pretend to be an old grandma. I have to be all these things. And I have to like turn that part of my brain off. And then when I go away from the booth and away from the mic and I'm back in the car, then I can have my little freak out meltdown. And I was like, oh, yours just like that. It's just, instead of being an actor, she's an assassin. And so that was kind of how I approached it. And it just kind of very organically kind of came out of that, where I was like, oh, as a performer, I'm so used to no matter how much you're freaking out, you have to put your game face on. And I feel like, especially with the amount of training Yor went through and just the certain way, if you have trained and practiced something enough, your body just eventually just gets used to it and slips into the mode, as long as you're doing something that feels familiar. And that was kind of the origin of Yor. And at the time too, they had put a trailer out, but it only had Anya and Lloyd's voices in it. They hadn't done any preview for episode 2 when Yor shows up. So I had no idea what she was going to sound like. I was totally guessing. I was like, what is this character design? How would I portray this? How would I approach this? What does this sound like in my head? And I'm so grateful that it worked out.
Oh yes, it did. Just part of it is the hijinks, and the entire show is completely charming to the max. Every bit of the show I absolutely love. At the time of this recording, there's only 2 seasons out, and season 2 focuses intensely on your character. It really shows from what you've said and what you've said on other interviews and stuff, like the personalization from how you feel really shows and shines in Yor. So fantastic job. You did amazing. And, I'm very much looking forward to what's to come out in the future. Already Spy Family has blown up in so many ways. 2 seasons, a movie, a video game, a musical, right? Like there's so much to this series that it's incredible. Like in such a short amount of time, it's already blown up so much. The chemistry between Yor, Lloyd, and Anya is, like I said, one of the main reasons that Spy Family is so beloved, especially by me. How did you develop that dynamic with your co-stars, if you did? Do you have any memorable moments from recording that stood out to you?
Yeah. So oddly enough, especially in the first half of season 1, I knew Megan, who plays Anya. I knew her a little bit at the time. We have since gone on to become very, very good friends. But we had worked together on a couple projects a little bit, and I kind of knew her personality and I kind of knew her vibe. I wasn't familiar with her like a lot of times she gets cast as like kind of nice girl next door type characters or like kind of soft tsundere type ish, which is kind of like the, like emo girl type a little bit.
Right.
So I was totally unfamiliar with her work doing children characters. So I really didn't know totally what to expect from her Anya. I knew she had the acting chops, so I was like, oh, that's going to sound great. I had never met, and I barely knew who Alex was at the time. I eventually, like the more anime I've watched too, the more you realize he's kind of a staple, especially of like the early to mid 2000s or 2010s, excuse me, anime that was coming out around the time. And then he took a break to go focus on his theater career for a while. And because of COVID, he's like, oh, I guess maybe I'll pivot back to voiceover for a little bit. So it kind of ended up working out that we got him back. But for those first 12 episodes or so, we did not see each other. We did not work together at all. Anime is always recorded one person at a time just because of the logistics of the dubbing process and trying to get everything in order. It's just, I can't fathom as an audio engineer there being a great way to have everyone recording unless everyone had a whole lot more time, money, and patience.
Right.
Which I don't see happening, which is valid and totally fine. So I really, especially early on, it really does boil down to the fact that the source material is just so good. So it really, the story just tells itself. The characters are so well realized. They are so wonderfully realistic, and they exist in somewhat of a unreal, like it's grounded in reality. They do play up, kind of the absurdity a lot of times for comedy, but it still always feels like it comes from a very grounded place that understands what the core message and what the core values are, and these concepts of family, but also surviving immense amounts of trauma and wartime. And it's just, there's so much richness to the world building and to the way the characters are constructed, and that even the filler arcs do so much to help inform, what they're about and why they are the way they are and how they have come to become the people they are and what they want. And so it makes it very easy for us to make good, educated decisions as actors. And then on top of that, our English director, Chris George, also has a wonderful vision for the show where he's making sure that, if I say something a certain way, he knows that he'll make sure that Alex or Megan is reacting a certain way, or if they've already recorded, that I'm recording in a certain way that's going to, tell the story in the right way and it's going to have the right emotional beats. We're also referencing the Japanese audio for every single line. So that helps a lot make us sound as coherent as possible, and like we were always in the same room at the same time. But since then, Alex and Megan and I do a lot of conventions together now too, and we've done 30 plus episodes plus a movie. So we've now had the chance to sit with these characters for a long time and get to know them really well. And we go to conventions and we answer questions about them, and we have to think about them pretty consistently. And then I'm the crazy person that went to 11 and has the Shonen Jump app so that I can read every single chapter as soon as it drops. So I love this world, and I'm very, very embedded in it and very committed to it. But I think all of that has helped, that because of that, we really now have a sense of like, oh, this is like, I know like Megan and Alex, I now understand kind of what they do with those characters, what those characters are going to sound like, how they're probably going to deliver those lines, and how I fit into that puzzle piece. And this is what the director's probably going to want from me in terms of like, comedic or heartfelt, and this is where we can push the voice. So it's just a thing that has also just organically become easier, and like revisiting old friends every time we come back to it.
Or maybe building your own little fake family.
I was so excited. We were in Canada. Megan and I usually go out and we get dinner pretty much every single time we're at conventions, and we hang out pretty often. But Alex has a very, very small social battery, which is entirely realistic. Conventions are very, very long and take a lot of energy. So I don't blame him for this at all. But normally he's like, I think I need to just go back to the hotel room and recharge and watch a football game or something like that. And we're like, that's fine. We'll see you later, Alex. But he went to a hockey game with us. So all three of us went to a hockey game, and that was really fun.
Oh, that's amazing. Awesome quality time. Oh, that's so cool. This is amazing. Like I said, you guys are doing an amazing job working on an amazing show and bringing these characters to life. It's one of my favorites, one of my partner's favorites now. Like I introduced my partner to this show, and like she's like in love with it too. So like,
oh, awesome!
You guys are doing an amazing job. And God, just like really quickly, the music. Oh, yes. Jesus. Like the first half of season 1, the ending credits, like comedy, that song blows me out of the water. And I just love like spy, jazzy type of music. It's just, it's phenomenal. It's great. We're going to get into the speed round where I'm going to ask you a bunch of silly random questions. We're going to see how you do. Are you ready?
Okay.
If you were the final boss in a video game, what would your title be?
Ooh, I feel like something like, it would be audio related.
Yeah.
Probably where I'd be like, you have to, I don't know what the title would be, but I feel like that would be my moveset would be something like
something based with audio.
Yeah, there's a TikTok trend going around right now where you like there's like a ball that you have to get to hover at the right pitch before it goes through like this little hole. I feel like it'd be something like, insane like that. I'd be like, ha, you can't sing in tune, ha.
And what would your boss theme music be? And you can choose any song from anywhere.
Oh my gosh, if I could be the cool enough boss for Megalovania in any context, that would be my dream.
Okay, Sans, I gotcha. If you were a superhero, what would your name be and what would your powers be?
Oh man, see, I'm bad at titles. I really, my dream superpower is like some form of like levitation. So I could like fly or, levitate in some capacity. So something related to that. I don't know. Again,
that's okay.
Titles.
And I just thought of for like the final boss bit, I know you love like giant robots. Does that also include Transformers?
I do enjoy Transformers. That's a little more my sister's realm than mine, but I do enjoy a good Transformers.
Okay.
Experience.
Understood. I recently had John Bailey on the show. He is the voice of hundreds of characters. He's the epic voice guy, epic trailers, whatever. But recently he plays Soundwave in Transformers 1 and Bumblebee. Soundwave, I just thought sound, audio engineering, final boss. There's something there.
Yeah.
Robots.
I could see some overlap there for
There's
sure.
something there. If you can live in the world of your favorite childhood show or movie, which one would it be and why?
Ooh, it would 100% be the Redwall universe, those audiobooks I was telling you about that were full cast. It's like this beautiful pastoral woodland area, as long as they're not being raided by like the bad guys. But for the most part, it's this like wonderfully pastoral setting. And the author has the most, like, you know how people talk about like, anime food is like next level. It always looks so good.
Ghibli films in their food? God.
Yeah. So this guy, he had a way with words that was like the equivalent of like anime food. So I would want to live in this beautifully pastoral world and have all their amazing food. And yeah. That seems like a good time to me.
Yeah. Speaking of, real quick, Yor's stew that she made in season 1, that's something I really want to make myself, and it just looks so good.
It does. I've seen some recipes out there, so I think you could try.
I will. If you could attend any fictional event, for example, the Ewok celebration in Return of the Jedi, which one would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. See, now I'm locked on Redwall, and they used to, like, the biggest thing is they would always have the big feasts that were when there was all the food was available and everyone would go all out. They'd have music and acrobatics and everyone would just be eating themselves silly, and then they'd all fall asleep in the great hall listening to stories and stuff. I'm like, that sounds
me. Like a great time.
We're just going back. It's a good one.
If you had to guess, what would you say is the song you listen to the most times in your life?
The most times in my life. Ooh. I feel like it would probably, I don't know if it would be a specific song. The John Williams Star Wars scores definitely seem like I haven't listened to them nearly as much now, but I got some real mileage out of them back in the day, and I still go back to those pretty decently enough.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's a great choice. What activities or pursuits most make you lose track of time?
Anything creative, like writing, playing music, crafting. I'm inevitably like looking at the clock going, no, I want more time. There's never enough time.
Yeah. What would your 14-year-old self think of who you are today?
She'd lose her mind. Just absolutely lose her mind. Yeah, I think she'd be thrilled. I spent a lot of time convincing myself that I would never be cool enough or capable enough. Like, you know, I had real self-esteem issues for the longest time, and I just spent so much time in my younger years like trying to temper my expectations for what and who I could be, and to know that I found a way to be able to do this and still be myself and be true to who I am. That just never seemed possible, and I think I would be absolutely blown away that I did it, and it was incredible and fun, and I just feel very lucky to be where I am right now.
I love that so much. Well, you made it at the end. Thank you so much for being on the show. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun talking.
Thank you so much, Natalie. It's truly a dream come true to have the honor and opportunity to talk to you. So again, thank you so much. And of course, I'll leave links to all your socials and all your stuff in the description.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that's all the time we have for today, guys. If you want to hear more from Natalie, be sure to follow her on her socials at Van Sistine and check out her website, nvansistine.com. Be sure to let us know what you think about this episode somewhere on the internet, and be sure to follow us on our socials and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Links to them are down below. Be sure to rate us 5 stars and leave a comment down below. We'll catch you on the next one.
Next time on the Razzle Dazzle Show.
The only way I'm going to tell this the way that I want to is if it's a game, because the whole time I'm writing it, I'm thinking about The Legend of Zelda and just the sort of like the feelings that I always had playing The Legend of Zelda, and just that sense of exploration and discovery. And I'm like, I don't know how to make a reader feel that. They need to be playing it in a game.
Tune in next week.